At precisely 4:50 a.m. on a frost-covered morning that Moscow would prefer the world forget, the Kerch Bridge, Putin's $4 billion monument to Russian engineering superiority and geopolitical ambition, was burning again. For the second time in 6 months, the structure that was supposed to symbolize the permanent annexation of Crimea had become a towering column of black smoke visible from satellites in low Earth orbit. But this wasn't another improvised truck bomb detonated by a desperate saboteur. And it definitely wasn't one of those sneaky maritime drones that had become Ukraine's signature calling card in the Black Sea. The twisted steel girders and fractured concrete told a fundamentally different story, one that made Russian air defense commanders reach for the vodka before their morning coffee. The damage pattern was unmistakable to anyone with even basic knowledge of modern munitions. These weren't the jagged, irregular blast marks of explosives packed into a vehicle. These were precision penetration holes, the kind created by guided weapons traveling at terminal velocity, the distinctive signature of American-made GBU-39 small-diameter bombs, delivered from altitude with GPS-guided accuracy measured in single-digit meters. Ukraine hadn't just blown up the bridge again through some clever ground-based trickery. They had flown F-16 Fighting Falcons, American fourth-generation multi-role fighters that Moscow had spent months insisting would never make a difference in this conflict, directly through what was supposed to be an impenetrable layered air defense network, dropped their payload with surgical precision, and somehow managed to fly home in time for breakfast. The impossible had just transformed from theoretical concern into smoking, extremely expensive reality. And before the Kremlin could start the inevitable process of firing generals and rewriting after-action reports to make the failure seem less catastrophic, we need to understand the absolutely insane engineering puzzle that Ukrainian mission planners had to solve. This wasn't a lucky shot executed by pilots who happened to find a gap in the coverage. This wasn't crude saturation tactics overwhelming defenders through sheer numbers. This was Operation Blindfolded Bear, a name that would only make sense once you understood the execution. A meticulously choreographed plan that relied on a terrifyingly fragile combination of American precision hardware, garage-built decoys that cost less than a used Honda Civic, and timing so tight that a 5-second delay at any stage would have turned success into a pilot's funeral. Meet the main character of this theoretically impossible raid, the F-16 Block 50 Fighting Falcon. In the experienced hands of a United States Air Force pilot operating with the full support of AWACS command and control aircraft, satellite reconnaissance, electronic warfare support, and fighter escorts, this jet is an apex predator. A $60 million flying computer capable of dominating airspace through superior technology and tactical coordination. But here, flying alone through hostile airspace into the teeth of a defense network specifically designed to kill aircraft exactly like it, the F-16 wasn't a predator. It was prey, and extremely vulnerable prey at that. The aircraft was carrying 4 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs mounted on underwing hardpoints. These aren't massive bunker-busting weapons designed to crater hardened underground facilities. They're surgical instruments, each one a 285-pound precision glider equipped with a miniaturized inertial navigation system cross-referenced with GPS guidance, capable of hitting a target the size of a parking space from 46 miles away in optimal conditions. But today's mission parameters weren't asking these bombs to hit a parking space. They were being tasked with something far more complicated and infinitely more dangerous. The target wasn't just any section of the Kerch Bridge. Mission planners had identified a specific expansion joint on Bridge Support Pylon 145, a structural weak point that had been compromised during the previous attack 6 months earlier. Russian engineers had repaired the visible damage, welded new steel plates over the cracks, and declared the bridge operational. But metallurgical stress analysis from Ukrainian intelligence suggested the underlying structural integrity had been permanently degraded. That joint was now a fracture point waiting for the right application of force. More crucially, and this is where the mission shifted from difficult to borderline suicidal, the timing of the bomb impact had to coincide precisely with a Russian ammunition convoy crossing that exact section of bridge. Not just any convoy, but specifically a logistics column carrying 152mm artillery shells, each one packed with enough high explosive to make a very bad day significantly worse. The mission required hitting a moving target on a bridge 11 miles long, while that target happened to be positioned over a pre-weakened structural point. It was like trying to shoot a bullet out of the air with another bullet while wearing a blindfold and standing on a moving platform. And that brings us to the villain of this story, the system that should have made this entire operation a statistical impossibility. The S-400 Triumph air defense system, NATO reporting name SA-21 Growler, is on paper an absolute monster. Its 92 N6E Gravestone phased array fire control radar can simultaneously track 300 targets while engaging 36 of them, creating what Russian manufacturers proudly advertise as a 400-kilometer no-fly zone. The system's 48 N6 interceptor missiles are 4,000-pound telephone poles flying at Mach 6, equipped with proximity-fused fragmentation warheads specifically designed to shred aircraft at ranges where the pilot can't even see the launch platform. The engagement envelope is terrifying. The missile can intercept targets flying as low as 10 meters above terrain or as high as 27 kilometers in altitude, traveling at speeds up to Mach 4.8. Against a lone F-16 operating without electronic warfare support, theoretically, this mission should be suicide. The S-400 sees everything within its coverage area, prioritizes threats based on sophisticated algorithms, and kills them with mechanical efficiency. So, how do you beat a system that processes targeting data faster than a human can think? You give it hallucinations. You flood its sensors with so much contradictory data that its logic processors freeze trying to categorize threats. You exploit the one weakness that even the most advanced automated system possesses: the assumption that sensor data reflects reality. Ukraine wasn't planning to send just one jet on a straightforward attack run. They were preparing a chaotic orchestra of cheap technology, improvised electronic warfare systems, and expendable decoys specifically designed to break the S-400's digital brain. The goal wasn't to destroy the air defense network. That would be impossible with available resources. The goal was far more modest and infinitely more difficult. They needed to buy exactly 30 seconds, a tiny, terrifying window of opportunity during which the defensive network would be looking in the wrong direction. If the wind shifted and disrupted the carefully calculated glide path of the bombs, the mission failed. If the Russian radar operators were 0.5 seconds faster than Ukrainian intelligence estimates predicted, the F-16 would be reduced to a debris field scattered across the Black Sea. The probability of success, calculated by mission planners using Monte Carlo simulation software, hovered around 30%. Those are lottery ticket odds, and the clock was already ticking. Ghost had launched from a classified Ukrainian airbase 240 kilometers away at precisely 4:12 a.m., the F-16's wheels leaving the runway just as the Magura flotilla began their slow crawl toward the bridge approaches. The entire ingress had been flown at wave-top altitude, maintaining radio silence, navigation lights dark, following a flight path calculated to exploit known gaps in Russian coastal radar coverage. 33 minutes of high-stress, low-altitude flying through hostile airspace with zero margin for error had brought him to exactly where mission planners needed him to be. At 4:45 a.m., the Black Sea was pitch black, the kind of darkness that makes horizon differentiation nearly impossible without instruments. Inside the cockpit of the lead F-16, callsign Ghost, the threat warning receiver was already glowing with lethal yellow bands of Russian search radars. Ghost was flying at 60 meters above the freezing wave tops, maintaining 550 knots. At this altitude and speed, he was essentially flying a $60 million computer into what fighter pilots call the microwave oven, an environment so saturated with hostile radar energy that every system was screaming warnings about imminent death. Ahead, the S-400 Triumph battery at Kerch was sweeping the horizon with its 92 N6E Gravestone radar, capable of detecting fighter-sized targets at 250 kilometers. If Ghost popped up above the radar horizon now, he would be dead in approximately 12 seconds. 6 seconds for tracking lock, 3 seconds for missile launch authorization, and 3 seconds of flight time before a 48 N6 interceptor turned his aircraft into aluminum confetti. He needed a distraction, something loud and obvious that would force the Russian air defense network to commit its attention to the wrong threat. Right on schedule, the ocean woke up. 3 miles ahead, 10 Magura V-5C drones did something unprecedented. They stopped. The top hatches slid open. From the decks of this robotic flotilla, a swarm of 40 modified FPV quadcopter drones screamed into the sky, their brushless motors whining to maximum RPM within 2.8 seconds. This was simple mathematics meeting brilliant logistics. Each Magura carried 4 quadcopters and weatherproof launch tubes, solving the biggest limitation of FPV drones: their pathetically short range caused by small battery capacity. Standard FPV drones have an operational radius of maybe 15 kilometers. By using the Magura boats as mobile launch platforms, Ukraine had created an underwater taxi service delivering the drones to within striking distance and bypassing the battery problem entirely. As the swarm climbed toward 1,500 meters, the operation split. 5 Maguras, their delivery mission complete, immediately executed 180-degree turns and raced back toward Ukrainian-controlled waters at maximum throttle. These platforms were too expensive to waste, each representing months of development and approximately $250,000 in hardware. But 5 Maguras stayed behind, their operators fully aware they were piloting floating coffins. They pushed throttles to maximum, activating trihedral corner reflectors mounted on their superstructures, devices designed to make these 5.5-meter boats appear on Russian screens as 18-meter landing craft. Above them, the 40 FPV drones weren't just buzzing random, they were executing a coordinated electronic warfare attack using custom-built spoofing pods, crude but effective devices cobbled together from commercial components. To the human eye, they looked like plastic toys with circuit boards duct-taped to their frames. To the Russian S-400 radar, they looked terrifyingly different. The spoofing pods emitted frequency-hopping signals crafted to mimic the radar cross-section and velocity profile of incoming cruise missiles. Suddenly, the Russian radar operator's screen at Kerch didn't display 40 small drones. It showed 40 low-flying cruise missiles inbound from multiple vectors, converging on the bridge in what appeared to be a massive saturation attack. It was a classic denial-of-service attack, but applied to physics instead of servers. The S-400's processor, designed to filter out birds and ocean clutter, was suddenly flooded with high-priority threats that matched every parameter of genuine cruise missile attack. The Russian air defense network's AI logic froze, desperately trying to classify the targets. Is it a storm shadow? Is it a decoy? The Pantsir S-1 crews were completely overwhelmed. Their radar screens had transformed into a blizzard of static and false contacts. Frustrated, they switched to manual optical tracking, squinting through thermal cameras in the pre-dawn darkness. The battery commander shouted the orders into a cloud of plastic and copper wire. But the swarm was too spread out. The autocannons had a maximum effective range of 4 kilometers. The FPV drones were hovering just at the edge, dipping in and out, taunting the gunners. Frustrated, the battery commander escalated. He authorized missile launches. 57 E-6 interceptors, each costing $75,000, streaked off their rails at Mach 4. These were kinetic kill vehicles designed for cruise missiles. Today, they were hunting $500 quadcopters. The first missile detonated near 3 drones. The fragmentation blast caught them perfectly. The Russian crews cheered, convinced they were winning. Or so they thought. While the sky lit up with millions in ordnance, something critical was happening that nobody noticed. 12 miles out, down in the radar shadow, Ghost was watching the fireworks through his helmet display. To him, those tracers weren't terrifying. They were a green light. Every turret pointed skyward was a turret not pointed at him. He checked his fuel, 1,200 pounds remaining. He checked his radar altimeter, 55 meters. Processors were choking on 40 cruise missiles screaming on the scopes above. The Russian defense network had tunnel vision, focused entirely on the loud, bright swarm at 1,500 meters. They had forgotten to check the floor. Ghost pushed the throttle to military power. No afterburner, that would create a thermal plume satellites could see. He needed rudder that would seal his career. Free fire! Engage all contacts! The 2 Pantsir batteries unleashed hell. The 30mm autocannons roared to life, vomiting 5,000 rounds per minute into the sky. The twin barrels created continuous streams of tracers tearing through darkness like angry neon whips. The lead FPV drone vaporized raw, cold thrust. He was closing distance at 1,020 kilometers per hour. Back at the bridge, the drone swarm was dying. 15 drones down, 20 drones down. The Pantsirs were reloading. The barrels glowed cherry red. The air was thick with smoke and cordite. The Russian operators were high-fiving, convinced they had successfully defended the bridge. He was flying so low that sea spray was hitting his sensors. Why was he safe? Simple geometry. The Earth is round. At 12 miles distance and 55 meters altitude, Ghost was physically hidden behind the planet's curvature relative to the Pantsir radars mounted at sea level. The S-400's main radar could theoretically see him if it looked down, but right now it's bridge. Their screens were clearing up. The false targets were vanishing. As the last FPV drone spiraled into the sea, the Russian operators took a breath. They thought the sky was clear. That was the signal. Emerging from the radar shadow of the bridge pylons, 5 Magura V-5C drones throttled up. The engines roared, pushing the hulls to 45 knots. They charged directly at the bridge to 600 meters in a violent pop-up maneuver, exposing himself to the entire Russian defense network. He had just stood up in the middle of a gunfight. Ghost didn't level off. He pulled the stick back harder, putting the jet into a 45-degree climb, creating a loft trajectory. He wasn't just dropping bombs, he was throwing them. Through his targeting pod, new shapes resolved on the bridge deck. Rolling out of the smoke on the Taman side was a massive logistics convoy. 20 heavy KAMAZ 6350 trucks with suspension sagging under extreme weight, flanked by Tiger armored cars. For 15 minutes, while the sky exploded with drone battles, this convoy had halted at the security checkpoint. The Russian commander, believing the air raid was over, made a fatal error. Their active emitters screaming electronic noise to simulate cruise missiles. The Russian defense network panicked. The Pantsir crews, their barrels still smoking from the drone engagement, were forced to swivel their guns down toward the water. The sea churned with geysers of 30mm rounds. One Magura exploded in a fireball. A second was torn apart by a patrol boat's heavy machine gun. But this chaos was exactly what Ghost was waiting for. While every Russian sensor was looking down at the water, Ghost pulled back on the stick. The F-16 rocketed from 60 meters, one drone left. Magura number 5 slipped past the ship's stern. It activated its massive radar emitter to max power and began circling the main bridge pylon, screaming electronic noise that looked like a fleet of bombers on Russian scopes. The chaos was absolute. Pantsirs shooting at water, the patrol ship fighting fires, smoke blinding sensors. Ghost saw the smoke rising, the tracers hitting water. The distraction was perfect. Its AK-630 rotary cannon spun up, firing 5,000 rounds per minute. A wall of water erupted. The drone tried to jink left, but a shell tore through its engine block. It cartwheeled and disintegrated. 2 drones left. They split up in a pincer maneuver. The ship couldn't shoot in 2 directions at once. The captain screamed for a hard turn. The gun shredded Magura number 4 just 50 meters from the hull. Black smoke billowed up, drifting across the water. He made a hole. If he hit those trucks, he created a tactical nuclear weapon made of conventional explosives. Every second he spent loitering at 600 meters was a second the S-400 had to kill him. He was a sitting duck, betting his life on chaos below. Down on the water, the remaining Magura drones were fighting for his life, staying alive long enough to keep Russians distracted. The Russian patrol ship Sergei Kotov spotted Magura number 3. Climb peak, they gained kinetic energy to glide the final distance. Their diamond wings snapped open. But his luck just ran out. He checked the targeting pod. The lead KAMAZ crossed the line, then the second, then the third. The heavy center of the convoy was now directly over pylon 145. The trap was full. Ghost pressed the button. 2 GBU-39 bombs detached from the pylons. Released at he ordered them to proceed, driving straight into the kill box. Ghost watched the lead truck approaching the expansion joint at pylon 145. Not yet. If he dropped now, the bombs would hit escort vehicles. Useless. He needed the payload trucks in the middle, covered in green canvas, to be directly over the structural weak point. Those canvas covers were hiding 500 tons of 152mm artillery shells. If Ghost hit the bridge deck, 1 drone left. Magura number 5 slipped past the ship's stern. It activated its massive radar emitter to max power and began circling the main bridge pylon, screaming electronic noise that looked like a fleet of bombers on Russian scopes. The chaos was absolute. Pantsirs shooting at water, the patrol ship fighting fires, smoke blinding sensors. Ghost saw the smoke rising, the tracers hitting water. The distraction was perfect. Their active emitters screaming electronic noise to simulate cruise missiles. The Russian defense network panicked. The Pantsir crews, their barrels still smoking from the drone engagement, were forced to swivel their guns down toward the water. The sea churned with geysers of 30mm rounds. One Magura exploded in a fireball. A second was torn apart by a patrol boat's heavy machine gun. But this chaos was exactly what Ghost was waiting for. While every Russian sensor was looking down at the water, Ghost pulled back on the stick. The F-16 rocketed from 60 meters